Thanks for joining me here on today's Tropical Weather Impact. I'm meteorologist Payton Malone here in New Orleans. It is Monday, July the 7th, and over the weekend things have been fairly busy with Chantal moving into parts of the Carolinas. You had the remnants of Barry causing just a tragic situation over in Texas, so we got a lot to break down this morning. Now, luckily, things have really simmered down across some of those hardest hit areas. What's left of Tropical Depression Chantal? The storm is now a depression moving through Virginia up towards D.C. right now with a little bit of rain, but luckily its impacts now are going to be very minimal as it continues to weaken and racing northeast at over 15 miles an hour this morning. A closer look of what happened with Chantal overnight. It did lead to some fairly significant flooding problems over in North Carolina, especially between Greensboro and Raleigh, North Carolina. They saw substantial rainfall yesterday on Sunday and through last night here. Some areas picking up over 12 inches of rain, at radar estimating even near 15 inches in a few spots. So you're talking about significant river flooding was ongoing through this portion of North Carolina. Again, that's between Greensboro here and Raleigh. Now, other communities like Charlotte, they missed all of the rain here with this thing. And then further in coastal areas, just had some onshore flow and some rip current risk. But that was the biggest problem from Chantal as it moved inland. It's a great reminder that it doesn't have to be a hurricane. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be a named storm, but in this case, a weak Chantal moved through and caused significant flooding in that corridor there, and things are going to take some time to drain off. Now where the storm is, it is moving up through D.C. right now with some rain. You can see there the rain moving through D.C. It's going to push it up into the Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Jersey areas as we go throughout your Monday, and then eventually exiting out into the Atlantic as it continues to speed off here. Elsewhere in the tropics, well, there's not a whole lot going on right now, but there are a couple of areas that maybe are worth watching for some extra moisture here over the next few days. But again, Chantal is going to be the only feature out there at the moment that actually has a name. Here you can see as we go through the day, some of those heavier tropical showers moving through Jersey, and then look at it just begin to dissipate. And then out in the Atlantic, it goes by later tonight. And so that thing's going to be a short-lived problem there along the eastern seaboard. Again, elsewhere, not a whole lot happening. There are a couple of features you may notice, though, if you're looking at satellite. Hurricane Center not highlighting anything right now, as we're not expecting anything to really blossom in much of anything in the near term, but that may grab your attention. Some showers and storms near the Turks and Caicos, and also some showers and storms in the Gulf region here. This is an upper level low spinning and backing towards Texas. That's tropical moisture. And then you've got this upper level low spinning south of Bermuda. So what's going to happen here is this upper level low is going to back to Texas with rain. This upper level low in moisture is going to get pulled north and back up towards the Carolinas later this week. May bring additional showers and thunderstorms to some of those areas that did see some rainfall earlier or through the weekend with Chantal. So again, I don't see any of these blowing up in anything significant right now, but sometimes you do have to watch these upper level lows. They are enhancing a concentrated area of showers and storms. Occasionally you can see some low pressure form, but usually you also have some wind shear tied in. So when we look at our GFS and European models, our two major global models we look at, that's Chantal right now. You can see they both got the area of spin right near DC, but if we fast forward it, you can see that moves out to sea. Does anything else really pop up? Not really, meaning models are not overly aggressive with anything trying to form out over the next week or so. Now, the one area that may have a little opportunity is that upper level low near the Bahamas this morning. It's going to lift north here. There is a little bit of model guidance for some lower pressure in here, but either way, I think it's just going to bring extra showers and maybe some thunderstorms to the coastal areas of the Carolinas as we head into this upcoming weekend. So you can see a week from now, or nearly a week from now, we may have some disturbed weather there off the East Coast. But notice the Gulf, there wasn't hardly anything being picked up. I mean, you're talking about going through this week with that upper level low backing towards Texas, but outside of that, it doesn't look like we have any substantial risk of anything tropical trying to form here. Again, that upper level low, it is going to increase the rain chances across Texas here. Now, right now, those hardest hit areas around Austin and through this basin here along I-35, right in there is the hardest hit areas. They still are under a flood watch. We are expecting some scattered showers and storms the next few days, but the pattern is starting to shift here. We're not looking at the same type of setup we had over the weekend where we just had inundation of all of these just horrible, horrible rainfall events. Now, as we go through this week, notice over the next 12 hours or so, we do start to see mainly those coastal areas of showers, some scattered showers up around I-35 there in Texas, and that also includes Louisiana. Fast forward into Tuesday, you can see there you start to see maybe a heavy rain threat develop in southeast Texas closer to the Houston area. So some of that extra moisture and upper level low heading towards Houston going to increase the risk of some maybe flooding around Houston. Now, let's just start by saying this is not the same type of setup as what happened up around Austin and into the hill country there of Texas, but still, Houston, flood-prone area, heavy showers and storms like you see in the summertime. Think of it that way. That'll be for your Tuesday, and then as we fast forward into your Wednesday, notice we still are dealing with those afternoon scattered showers. So that's the main thing with all of this. A lot of this is going to happen during the daytime hours when you heat up. If you lived along the Gulf Coast, those storms go up in the afternoon. Sometimes they're heavy, they're slow movers. That can cause some street flooding. And so that's the case all the time for New Orleans, and even the Houston area keeps an eye on this too. Again, this is a marginal threat, but it is something to be aware of here if you live in any of these communities. Rainfall totals, again, there's a lot of deep tropical moisture in some of these downpours, so it just doesn't take much for it to really start to add up. And you can see here on our weather model, if it will fully download, that you will occasionally see some rainfall totals that add up. You get these little bullseyes in here. It's not widespread flooding rains, but you get these little pockets of tropical downpours you can see there. Over the next 3 days, you do start to see some of this add up. Marginal risk for flooding is going to be the main messaging with all this. Now, outside of that, the dust continues to be an awesome feature, we'll call it, across the basin here. The Caribbean is dealing with another little plume of dust extending from Cuba to Dominican Republic and Haiti. Here's Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. So if you've got a cruise, maybe you're leaving out of New Orleans or somewhere along the Gulf Coast and heading through the Gulf, you're eventually going to start to see some hazier skies from this as it approaches the Yucatan and into the western Gulf by later this week. I can put our Saharan dust tracker on, and you can see here's this first plume. Also, another giant plume has exited off the continent of Africa. That's a big bowling ball of dust that's going to be rolling across the Atlantic Basin through this week. And so this first one's going to be near the Caribbean islands in the next few days. Here we are near the Yucatan on Tuesday, moving fairly quickly. By Wednesday and Thursday, we've got it moving up along the Texas coast, gets flung around a ridge of high pressure over the Gulf later this week. And that pulls some of that dust into the New Orleans area, maybe by Thursday or Friday. So if you're like me and you noticed last week your allergies were a little bit worse than normal, it's probably the dust. We did have plenty of the dust coming across the northern Gulf here. I think that's going to happen here again later this week. Now, if you got vacation plans or you're watching us down here in the Caribbean islands from the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, or any of our other islands down here, you've got another plume of dust coming in by the end of the week here. That's going to be a fairly thick one too that moves in and is with you through the upcoming weekend. Saturday and Sunday, you can see it continues to travel, and then again, that one will make an aim for the Gulf here by the end of this week. So still got a couple of rounds of Saharan dust here as we go through the end of the week here, and nothing unusual about it. It's just what you have to watch this time of year, and you love watching the dust because that typically means you're not watching anything tropical in nature. So far we've had 3 named storms: Andrea, Barry, and Chantal. They've all been tropical storms. Barry, the remnants of Barry will be remembered for generations for our friends over in Texas, unfortunately. And while not directly tied to the circulation of Barry, those heavy rains were certainly fueled by leftover moisture from Barry that moved into Mexico well into last week. Chantal will be remembered too for some communities around North Carolina for some of the flooding. And again, you don't need a big old hurricane to see major impacts, or oftentimes with these types of things, it does come from the risk for flooding. So it is always that reminder that every single storm, whether it's a hurricane named or sometimes they're not even named, they can cause some big problems. So far, we got the 3 checked off. Dexter, at some point it will form, but right now it's not an imminent formation potential across the Atlantic Basin here. And then after Dexter, you get into Aaron and Ferdinand there. So we'll be checking these names off the list as we go. You just always hope you aren't going to meet any of them. I always like to remind people of what July means for hurricane season. July is often a relatively quiet month. It's not shocking to get a storm like Chantal and then to go weeks without much happening, and that certainly could happen here. We always seem to have a little bit of a lull throughout the middle and end of July. We will see if that's the case again this year. Now, just because you're quiet in July doesn't mean it's going to continue to be quiet. When you look at the averages and when you look at every single storm that's formed here going back through the 1900s, September is always the big winner here with the most activity. August is when things typically ramp up the fastest. And so early October can start very quiet, or August can start very quiet. The middle of October, October 15th into October 20th, is when things can typically ramp up, and then things can just go wild in September and some of the busier months. And if it's a busy season, you even see a lot of activity even into the month of October. Between October, the middle of October, and towards the end, things usually ramp down fairly quickly. So all that to say is we got a long season ahead of us. We use this time right now to get prepared. Of course, right now, a lot of our friends need help over in Texas. It is a long road to recovery for some of those areas, and that tragedy that happened over the past several days with that heavy rain. Also, our friends over in North Carolina dealing with heavy rains that were caused from Chantal Sunday into Sunday night. Again, that was between Raleigh and the Greensboro area, picking up over a foot of rain. But that's going to do it for today's Tropical Weather Impact. We will see you right back here tomorrow with hopefully no big updates as the tropics look to stay fairly quiet for a little while longer. We'll see you tomorrow.